Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update. The afternoon update with Lin Li Fu.
Money FM 89.3. In recent years, there's been a significant increase in the use of AI in various fields, including human resource management. AI has the potential to revolutionize HR practices as it can enhance efficiency, accuracy, and decision-making in HR functions. And yes, AI, automation, and analytics are becoming more central, I should say, to talent acquisition, employee engagement, and even performance management. But even with the technological advances, one fundamental truth seems to be neglected. The way our brains naturally function plays a very important role in shaping behavior, motivation, and performance at work. So today we will discuss a newer concept in human resource management, how neuroscience and AI could bring about a more data-driven approach to understanding employee behavior, among other potential benefits. Essentially helping HR professionals make better decisions based on deeper employee understanding and hopefully bringing higher value to their work in the HR industry. My guest today is Parul Sharma, Global Head of HR Business Partnering for Group Functions at the Economist Group, who will share insights on this new concept, the evolving hiring landscape, and the future of work. Parul, great to have you on the show.
Hi, Lin. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's great being back again.
Now, the last time we spoke, we talked about how AI is revolutionizing recruitment, the risks of AI bias in hiring, and in general, the evolving role of HR in the digital age. Today, I'd like to discuss with you what I think is something you are passionate about, the intersection of AI and neuroscience in human resource management. So let's start with the basics. Neuroscience in HR. It's a newer concept for many people. So how is it being applied in human resource management?
So to start with, it's definitely not new to the world, but I guess in our corporate world, it's making a stir. And that's why I'm kind of looking at it from a different lens, a lens of an HR leader. So if we say neuroscience in HR refers to application of brain science to understand and improve human behavior, decision-making, leadership, learning, employee engagement. So it leverages insight from cognitive neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral science to create more effective strategies. So if we talk about the application, I think it's a very, very fine concept which we as leaders and organizations can actually apply into all spheres of HR. Let's say, for example, employee experience, understanding how dopamine, which is reward system, influence employee motivation, collaboration, and engagement can help us understand what are the needs of today's world and how we can change our practices, our processes around engaging employee thinking from their perspective. The other important aspect of neuroscience in HR is one thing which I have been trying to work on is leadership development. I mean, using neuroscience-based coaching to help leaders develop emotional intelligence, resilience, and better decision-making, I would particularly want to dive into because the world is changing. As you said, AI is coming, and the kind of work which we used to do 10 years back is not there anymore. So we really need to prepare our leaders for the future of work. And by using this neuroscience-based applications, we can actually help leaders to become more resilient, prepare them for managing teams, hiring, recruiting, onboarding, and retaining to make sure that they think from a perspective of what the new generation wants. So yeah, these are a couple of applications I think we can think how neuroscience can make a difference.
Okay, let's break things down a little bit. What makes the brain tick at work? How can employers or HR practitioners design, for the lack of a better phrase, brain-friendly workplaces?
So I can give few examples. For example, I mean, if we are looking at an onboarding program, or let's say, for example, we are looking at hiring. That's how any individual gets. We need to think from a perspective that what the new generation wants or the hires want. I mean, I've recently spoken to some candidates who have spent a lot of time understanding what the company is all about. They think about employee reviews. Then they don't want flashy job descriptions. They want exactly what the culture of the organization is and what is the growth pattern. So if while the hiring was earlier about job description, if the leaders think or the hiring manager thinks from a neuroscience perspective, the point to be a USP for hiring an individual should be sharing what the company values are, what is the intention, how are they going to develop, or how are they going to give the opportunities to those individuals to kind of grow within the same organization, because we know how the new generation is working. They don't want organizations, to be working with those organizations for 20 years. They want the skill building. So we need to show that instead of job description, the companies need to highlight what the individual wants. So if we are hiring somebody in marketing, what will that individual need to be retained in the organization?
Oh, so you're talking about personalized training programs.
Personalized training programs, employee engagement programs, and especially development programs. When we say the training is a part of development, but there are different like business shadowing, reverse mentoring. So if we kind of get into those kind of platforms, we really need to think when we say business shadowing, what does we want the individual to business shadow? What do we want in reverse mentoring? For that, we really need to train our leaders to make sure when they kind of approach these kind of opportunities, we need to look from a perspective of how we develop development programs for Indian, which should have some training programs, we should have some coaching, which should have some business shadowing, some on the job. So it has to be a whole package, not just one opportunity or one training.
Very interesting, Parul. Now, how common are these practices? Are there organizations out there that are already carrying out these practices? And what other neuro-based strategies are there in the world of HR?
So I won't say that we've started calling it neuro-based, but I think, I can talk about myself and my colleagues. I think we are already doing that type of trainings ourselves to make sure when we design the talent management programs or we talk about workforce planning to the leaders, what is the concept we need to keep in mind? So I think, to give you an example, I was speaking to one of my networks the other day, and they have developed a program where through AI, they kind of understand the needs, what has been the pattern of an individual over a period of last 2 years from the performance management system, and they understand, okay, this is where the person needs to grow. And the assessment is not only through face to face, but over a period of time, the journey of an individual, how has he grown, what has been their skill set, and based on that, they design a program, and we as leaders kind of look at it and try to take it to the individual and explain him the background. But when I say AI and neuroscience, how they come together is that AI can give you a framework or probably the need or the assessment. But we as leader really need to see, will that work for that individual? What has been the expectation of the individual? How has been the well-being around the understanding? So to give you a concept, neuroscience helps in understanding how an individual is doing. So because our brain works very differently, if our brain sees restructuring happening around in the organization, it will be anxious. You cannot train a person who's anxious. So while AI works at bringing the skill set, neuroscience will help understanding the need and the personality type and the thought process of that individual. So that comes together and build a complete program for that individual to support him and make sure he's a success.
Oh, fascinating. Now, we all know that there are many challenges HR professionals face when it comes to creating better workplaces to make the workforce flourish. While trying to engage the workforce and retain talent, they're also battling growing concerns like workplace stress and burnout. So can AI and neuroscience help address these issues?
As I said, with the help of AI and the modern techniques that are coming in, we can analyze a lot of situations. Like earlier, there were engagement surveys, but now how to assess that engagement survey? Okay, engagement surveys can give you the scores, tell you where your people are, but AI can help you analyze that what is the root cause of less engagement in a particular team. What is the reason that one team is thriving? So the analysis of the scores is something that AI is able to help to the leaders. But then how is neuroscience working is in terms of understanding that analysis, understanding the root cause, speaking to an individual, trying to understand how he or she is feeling. So we bring both the things together, and then it kind of helps. It goes, I mean, it's like a partnership. It is absolutely a partnership. And that's why if you read about what I write, it's mostly around how neuroscience can support AI, because while we are rushing in the world of technology, the human centric approach still plays a very critical role, because AI can understand or analyze the situation, but it cannot understand people. And that's where we as leaders and organizations have to bring the human centric approach along with the AI.
Sounds really wonderful. But Parul, how do HR practitioners justify these practices? I would imagine that they might be facing criticism that these are just lofty ideals, they're not actionable, and probably not measurable.
I mean, I would say that as an HR practitioner, you can justify the use of neuroscience by linking it to tangible business outcomes, like demonstrating its impact on employee performance, leadership effectiveness, and the culture the most. So, for example, HR can use neuroscience-backed research to explain why HR strategies work better than traditional approaches. For example, studies can show psychological safety increases innovation, and we can show brain-friendly learning methods such as micro-learning, spaced repetition, improve knowledge retention. So that's one way of looking at it. So HR practitioners can present neuroscience research and case studies to business leaders and show how brain-based HR strategies lead to measurable performance improvements. That's one. Again, one of my passionate areas, leadership and decision making. So HR can introduce neuroscience-based leadership trainings. I mean, for example, what works best for the leaders when they are emotionally regulated, or burnout can lead to decision fatigue and reducing leadership effectiveness. So these kind of approaches, they reduce the impact of burnout. And as an HR practitioner, we can justify that, look, this was the situation. Your team member was going through such a situation for last 6 months, but now he or she is not in that situation. So it's more like, I mean, neuroscience-backed coaching helps leaders shift from reactive mindset to a proactive and a creative one. And I think leaders are also understanding this concept that, as I said, human-centric approach and neuroscience-backed learnings can actually make a difference in the world of AI.
Wow, it's just amazing to see how science and technology are coming together in HR. But are there ethical concerns around privacy and monitoring?
See, we were talking about when the AI came in about how ethical it can be. And now, so I think my response on this would be that anything and everything has its pros and cons. If you kind of use it in a way where it has everything which is working for the good of an individual, I think it's ethical. And we as organizations need to be very careful, whether it's about AI, whether it's about neuroscience, or whether it's about any approach. If you are working towards the betterment of your people and you are transparent, that's the key. If you are transparent, you are sharing what the approach is, you are talking about neuroscience, you're talking about AI-driven tools. If you have that approach where everything is transparent, I think it is ethical. Where we start hiding things, I think that's where the question mark is. Because as we say, I mean, if you're not transparent, and today's workforce is very different from what it was before. They want everything right in front. They will not let you work on them, whether it's about their own development, unless they see what is in for them and what is your approach. I've been in a global talent management role for 6 years before I took up the business partnering role. And I worked with people from all over the world, all my colleagues, and everybody wanted the same, like, be transparent. If you're using tools, how will that tool help me? So I think it's ethical if it is transparent. And yeah, I mean, organizations need to be mindful even while using AI or the information or the data-driven approach or neuroscience.
Fantastic. Parul, before we let you go, what do you see as the next big trend in HR technology?
I think what I have seen, a lot of organizations are going through a big digital transformation within HR, and they're trying to put in a lot of applications or tools which are self-sufficient, which is giving an opportunity to the HR folks to move out of the admin area to do more strategy work, use their application, train themselves to support colleagues. And I think this is going to be a big trend. So as for HR, I think it's time to make a huge shift. Put your mind, put your soul into upskilling yourself and understanding how people work. And that's why I'm quite a pro in talking about neuroscience, because I see in few years' time that's going to be a big thing, because everything will be system based, everything will be technology based. And because of this transition, we don't want to lose the human approach. And that's where the HR people need to upskill themselves, train themselves, support the people and the culture while using these technologies.
Thank you so much, Parul, for sharing your insights on how neuroscience is reshaping HR, from increasing employee motivation to lowering stress. And it's so intriguing, this concept, coupled with AI and leadership as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lily. It was a pleasure to be here.
Parul Sharma, Global Head of HR Business Partnering for Group Functions at the Economist Group. Thank you.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.